Hello, welcome to Aussie Liberty. My name's Lee. Today I want to talk about how to promote liberty and whether there is a right way. Recently I read Radicals for Capitalism, Brian Doty's book on the American libertarian movement, and it's a really fascinating read. And one of the fascinating aspects to it is that if you look at kind of how the sort of libertarian movement kind of moved across, so you start off with Rose Wilder Lane and Ayn Rand and Isabel Patterson and sort of moved from there, and you've got all these different people. So you've got Leonard Read from Fee, you've got Mises and Hayek, you've got Rothbard, you've got Friedman, you've got all these different people all sort of doing their own thing, and what sort of struck me was that pretty much everything that's libertarians now are thinking about doing to try and promote liberty has already been done. So, in Ecclesiastes, in the Bible, there's a phrase: "There is nothing new under the sun," and I think that's very true with the libertarian movement, because, if you want to go for sort of easygoing, everyman, type libertarianism, you've got Fee, and Milton Friedman. If you've got radical, sort of reaching out to radical groups on the left and radical groups on the right to try and bring them to sort of libertarians, you've got Murray Rothbard. If you've got sort of semi-statist, you've got Hayek. It's so fascinating to see people sort of essentially make the same arguments for the same reasons. And I guess to me that means that there is no singular way to do this. I think libertarians can sort of get sucked into the notion that we need to find the right way, right singular way, and do that one thing, and then everybody becomes a libertarian. And I don't think that's true. I think what happens is you try a bunch of different things in a bunch of different ways with a bunch of different people, and you see what works. So at the moment, we've got, even today, Lee Kavanagh, who is a writer I really respect, posted about David Leyonhjelm. And David Leyonhjelm is not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, he says some douchebaggy things. But even just in terms of his personality, in terms of the groups that he reaches out to, he's very, this whole debate over the Australian Building Construction Commission, which we talked about on Taking Liberties, which is the show that I'm a part of. Is it okay to trade off voting on that in order to serve gun owners? I mean, really, David Leyonhjelm was big on helping gun owners. And gun owners have really responded to him. If you go into non-libertarian groups full of gun owners, they're really quite positive towards him. If we had Gabriel Buckley from the Liberal Democrats, if he'd won in the Senate, well, he'd reach a different kind of group. He's a sort of hippie-ish, musician, he's in with the bikies. Those are two very different groups, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's not, maybe there are situations in politics where you got to select one person over another, but in terms of, even in politics, the goal is to reach people with ideas, and sometimes, bleeding heart libertarians are going to reach out to the left. And right-wingers don't need to say, well, you're wasting your time, because, well, there is no one way. There is no guaranteed bet. There is, if you do the opposite, if you sort of reach out to conservatives, as a lot of libertarians try to, fusionism, as Tim Andrews, who's a prominent libertarian in Australia, thinks is a worthwhile project. Okay, that's great. Sure, fine. That's been tried as well. That, reaching out to the left was tried. Murray Rothbard was mixing out with communists in the 60s. And yeah, it's so that's been tried as well. And it kind of, maybe it did work, maybe it didn't. It's hard to know. It's always hard to know. Milton Friedman did a series of TV shows, and he wrote a book, Free to Choose, and that was, popularized libertarian ideas. Did that work? Well, maybe it worked in some parts, maybe it didn't work in other parts. All this to say is, you don't need to give up other libertarian shit because they're doing something that you're not. The classic example is libertarians in the Liberal Party or Liberal Democrats. Who gives a crap? As long as you're reaching people for liberty, what does it matter? I'm part of the Liberal Party because I get to meet with people who are, okay people, and I get to tell them, I try to promote to them, hey, this free market stuff, liberty is a better set of ideas for what you're trying to reach. People in the LDP, that's fine. You're doing reaching with a different group of people. You're a smaller group, but you're sort of reaching to people outside of politics. Great. I have no problem with that. Like, it doesn't need to be either or. If somebody wants to do a different thing, that's fine. We can be cool with that. Everybody can just be cool. Like, don't get sucked into the idea. I guess this is the bottom line. This is the punch. Don't get sucked into the idea that there is one way. There is many ways, and not all of them work. Some of them will work. Trial and error is what we value as libertarians. We need to have trial and error in outreach for ideas. My name's Lee. I'm part of Aussie Liberty. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. And you can just search Aussie Liberty on both and find me. It's facebook.com/Aussie Liberty, twitter.com/Aussie Liberty. Thanks for joining me.